Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. From the latest science to this year's breakout stars and all the news in between, as always, I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Ben.
What's up, man?
Not much. Just ready for another great weekend of football. We had games last night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You know, we're only ever 2 days without college football and NFL football, really. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. It's so great. Yeah.
It's always good.
Anyways, we had some games last night that we want to cover, and then we're also going to be looking ahead to this weekend's games in college football and week 2 at the NFL season. I almost said week 3. I almost got ahead of myself there.
Oh, we're week 3 of college. Week 2.
Week 3, yeah.
We do have a week 3.
Yeah, but anyway, let's get started by talking about last night's Thursday night football game. It was actually the first game that was broadcasted on Twitter, or live streamed on Twitter, my ad. And
that's where I watched it.
I actually had a chance to catch a little bit of the live stream on Twitter, and I thought it was really, really cool because the fact that it gave kind of more of a bigger audience to the NFL game, because some people don't really have television these days. You know, they watch everything online, which I think was a great idea that the NFL did that. And I can probably see it moving forward. I'm not sure if they're doing it for every Thursday night game.
It's not every game. There's a few they're not doing. Like, I think they have next week, then they have week 5. There's like maybe 5 or 6 games that aren't, but the majority of them are. I know it's like week 11 through 16 are Thursday night football games are on Twitter. So a lot of them are, but I know there's a few weeks that aren't.
Okay. Well, which I think is cool. I think it's a great idea that they really came up with, and I would love to see it go forward because I eventually think games, like sporting games, I feel like they're going to somehow, go on a live stream instead of being on TV. I feel like about 20 or 30 years from now, people are not going to watch TV anymore, but people are probably going to be tuning into like probably the internet or some stuff like that.
It's like
I feel like
everything's going to be subscription based.
That too, yeah. You know how people mainly have like Netflix or like Hulu instead of like cable and all that? I feel like that's the direction we're heading towards. And I think the NFL is trying to catch on to that.
It's possible. I mean, look at last year. There was a game live streamed on Yahoo. So
Yeah.
You have Twitter this year. It's possible. You never know.
I thought the live stream on Yahoo was kind of weird. I don't know. But anyways, let's talk about last night's game. The New York Jets defeated the Buffalo Bills, a NFC East division rival, 37-31. Yes, some of the throws that Ryan Fitzpatrick made, or Fitzmagic, I like to call him, he did pretty well. He threw for 374 yards, and some of the throws he made, man, just great.
Yeah, he's got a lot of great weapons there. You look at Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, those two at wide receiver, one of the best pairings. You have Matt Forte, who they brought in the offseason to run. He's also a good receiving back as well. And then they just really got a lot of contributions from a lot of different guys. You know, you had Quincy and Yunwa with 92 yards with 6 catches. He had to leave the game early with a shoulder injury, but even he was chipping in and sort of helping them.
Yeah, what's his name? Iniwa. He led the team in receiving in the first half. Like you said, he left early. He led the team for with 92 yards on 5 targets with 5 receptions. So he caught all targets for 6 receptions. And plus, Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall, they each had 100 yards receiving each. And the thing I want to say is I think this was a huge Huge loss for the Buffalo Bills. They start off the season 0-2. They play the Arizona Cardinals next week. And they play, after that, they play New England Patriots. And I think the game against the Pats is on the road. And then next week's game against the Cardinals is at the Ralph, which is the home stadium for the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
I can honestly see the Bills start off the season 0-4 and possibly, maybe, firing Rex Ryan right after that.
I agree. I know. I talked about it on the sports show earlier. I felt like 0-4. They're staring 0-4 definitely in the face. I think Rex Ryan definitely does not make the whole year, but I think it's a good possibility he gets fired at least midway through the season. I just think Rex Ryan as a coach, not necessarily a good fit. As a defensive coordinator, a great fit. He's a great coordinator. Think about what he did with the Ravens, the Jets. With the Bills, it looked like, Rex Ryan's coming in. That Bills defense, which is already good, is going to go to a whole nother level. These last couple of years, and then this year, hasn't really been the case. They haven't really been as good of a defense as they were without him.
Yeah, and when Rex Ryan first came to Buffalo, I feel like he inherited a good team. I feel like there were, at the time, before Rex came to the Bills, I feel like they were literally a coach and probably a quarterback away from making the playoffs. And I thought they had a quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, who I still think he's pretty good.
I never believe in Tyrod Taylor. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
No. He's probably a good fit for now until they find the guy for the future. And remember, they did give Tyrod Taylor an extension, so you can't forget about that. So they saw something in him. But Rex Ryan, I don't see him making it. Their schedule is pretty brutal. After the Arizona and New England, they have 2 games after that, back-to-back against the Rams and the 49ers, which I think games they could win. But, we don't know anything about the Rams. Jared Goff could be the starter for L.A. at that point, and we don't know about the Niners. They could be a better team than we anticipated them to be. We saw how their defense played against the Rams in the opener. And I do think, the defense will kind of make things interesting this year. But anyways, after that, then they play Miami, which I think they could win that game, but we don't know.
It's a winnable game.
But we don't know about Miami either. Remember, they were leading Seattle majority of the game until, Russell Wilson threw that game-winning touchdown pass to Doug Baldwin to win the game against the Miami Dolphins. And after that, they also have another game against New England and Seattle at CenturyLink Field, which is a Monday night game before their bye week, or Week 10. So, pretty much, I don't see Rex Ryan making it to Week 5
it's possible
before their LA game.
It's possible. Like I said, I do think he definitely gets fired. I think at the start of the season next year, they will not have Rex Ryan as a coach. When I look at the Bills last night, I really think they only made 3 plays in the whole entire game.
Yeah.
You had a 84-yard touchdown to Marquise Goodwin on their first drive. You had a 71-yard touchdown to Greg Salas. And then you had the fumble recovery for a touchdown when Jalen Marshall, the wide receiver for the Jets, coughed it up in the third quarter. And then you had the other touchdown was on really at the end of the game, kind of a garbage time prevent defense by the Jets. Tyrod Taylor leads them down, brings them to within 6, an onside kick with a minute left, but they don't get it. So they kind of, in my opinion, only had 3 plays the whole entire game. If the Jets can sort of limit those, then the Buffalo Bills offense didn't really do much.
Yeah, I did look at those big plays because, out of Tyrod Taylor's 297 passing yards, majority of those yards were off of those 2 big plays for Marquise Goodwin and Greg Salas.
Right.
If those went incomplete for some reason, this would have been a different game. So I know that on paper the score looks close, but this game wasn't close in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. Because remember, like you said, the Bills did get that touchdown, but I think a minute 15 remaining. But yeah, and looking at the Jets though, man, I am loving what I'm seeing from Matt Forte at running back. He has elevated this offense so much. He had 100 yards, 30 carries, and 3 touchdowns. And remember, there was some talk.
And he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I know. I was close to getting him too. I was like, no, I think he might be in the committee, and he's not in the committee because there was some talk with with Matt Forte and Bilal Powell, possibly being in running back by committee. And I hate running back by committees when it comes to fantasy.
Well, coaches don't get paid to make us happy.
Exactly. That is true. But
I agree with you on Forte. Obviously, 30 carries, 100 yards, so that's not too great, a 3.5-yard average, but definitely 30 carries. Last week, he had 155 total yards between receiving and rushing. He's on pace for about 470 touches at over 30 years old. I think the Jets are going to slow that down. Forte's had durability questions throughout his NFL career. He seems like he's hurt at least a little bit every year. So I think the Jets are going to slow that down a little bit. But last night, you kind of had a good balance because you had Fitzpatrick lighting them up through the passing game. So obviously the Bills are not stacking the box against Forte. They're having to sort of ease back. You have Marshall, Decker on the outside. So that created a little bit of room for Forte, especially in the red zone. You had mentioned the 3 touchdowns. So I think he's a good addition, a good balanced running back. I thought when the Bears let go of him, it made sense because they have Jeremy Langford, who filled in nicely for them last year. But I thought it was a good pickup by the Jets because he's so valuable and so diverse.
Yeah, and by looking at this offense, I think this offense makes the Jets a playoff team. And remember that I had the Jets as a possible wildcard team heading into the year because I don't think they can win it because I think this is the Pats division. It's their division to lose. But I do think they can actually compete for it. I'm not saying the Jets are going to win it, but I do think the Jets will make the AFC East interesting. I think it's going to be a race between the Pats and the Jets all year. I think the Jets are going to be on the heels of the Patriots all year. And if I wouldn't be surprised, but I do think the Jets. I think they're a playoff team. Fitzpatrick, whether you want to say or not, he makes this team better. Because remember, Fitzpatrick almost didn't come back to the New York Jets, and if he didn't come back, I don't know what kind of team they would have been on offense. Geno Smith, he cannot play like that. They got Christian Hackenberg. He's a rookie, so I don't expect him, to throw for 300 yards. So, yeah, I do think Fitzpatrick is the reason why I think this offense is actually performing the way it is. I do think he's a valuable part to this offense.
I agree. I definitely think so. I think if there's one question mark or one downfall on the Jets, it's their schedule. Look at this. Look at their next 5 games. At Kansas City, home against Seattle, at Pittsburgh, at Arizona, home against the Ravens. Those 5 games, honestly, are all winnable or all losable. You know what I mean? I think they could easily go 2-4, 4-2, maybe be looking at 500 through those first 6-7 games. They still have 2 more games against the Patriots. Those are always tough games. So I think the Jets, everything you're saying is right. I think they're on that cusp. I think they're a potential playoff team. I think the one thing is that their schedule is super, super tough. And I think that's going to be the one downfall for them this year.
And their defense, too. Remember, they allowed 31 points, and they allowed those 2 big passing plays from Tyrod Taylor. So, that's a concern, too.
I think right now people are loving to go on into Revis Island. Think about what A.J. Green did last week.
Yeah.
He had 12 catches, 180 yards, and a score. Marquise Goodwin. Although, he is a track star for the Olympics, so he's one of the fastest guys in the league. He did burn Revis on that long play, so I don't know. We'll have to see how Revis does. He is over 30 years old. You have that age difference. He's not the player he used to be, but he can still be a good player, I think. So I think a lot of it depends on that defense is if he can really lock down one receiver all the time. I don't think he's that guy anymore. I think he can maybe limit some good ones, but I don't expect him to totally shut down people like A.J. Green, Antonio Brown. They're playing the Cardinals, so he'll probably go against Larry Fitzgerald. So I don't think he can be that guy anymore. Yeah,
and people forget Darrelle Revis is getting older. I think people forget that for some reason. But like you said, I want to go back to the Jets' schedule here. They play KC next week, which is at Arrowhead, by the way. Arrowhead is one of the toughest stadiums to play on the road. Really tough. And, of course, they're playing Seattle, and they go to Heinz Field to face the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they're going on the road to face Arizona. So those 4 teams alone are playoff teams. And then after that, they're playing an improved Baltimore Ravens team at home. So, yeah, I do agree with you. They're either winnable or losable. So I do think out of that stretch there, I do see them coming out 500 and, Because if they lose the majority of these games, I don't know if they can actually climb into the wild card standings with the record of that's under 500. But I do expect a really good year from the Jets as long as Fitzpatrick, plays well. As long as Forte is running the ball, getting his touches, I don't think he's going to go for 474. That's just crazy.
No way.
That was crazy for a 30-year-old. That's even crazy for Adrian Peterson. Yeah. But anyways, as long as they keep playing the way they do and their defense improves, I think they're going to be fine. I do think they're a playoff team because remember they're like literally one win away from the playoffs last year.
It was Week 17 against Buffalo.
Exactly.
They were winning, they were in, and then they lost. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's going to be tough. I think their schedule is definitely not in their favor, but they still are a good team. I think they'll be on that cusp. I think they'll be right there like they were last year. Obviously, you go 0-2, your chances of going to the playoffs are only at 12%, so it was a must-win for the Jets.
It was a must-win for both teams, for that matter.
I say a lot more for the Jets, though, because I think they're a lot better of a team than the Bills. So
I thought that was a must.
Have a better chance.
I thought that was a must-win for Rex Ryan.
It was,
yeah.
And then, like we mentioned, I think he's staring 0-4 right in the face. I think he's going to go 0-4. Cardinals, Patriots, tough.
Do you think if Rex Ryan gets fired by the Buffalo Bills, which I think we both agree he will, do you think his coaching career is done in the NFL, like his head coaching career?
As a head coach, I'd say yes. I don't think he really got the benefit of the doubt in New York. A lot of times on the offensive side of the ball, they weren't really doing much. Defense, they were always good, but they didn't really get enough playmakers on offense during the Rex Ryan era. So I think as a head coach, yes. I think he's just one of those guys that's a lot better of a coordinator than a coach. Look at like Lane Kiffin at Alabama right now. Great offensive coordinator. Great with USC as an offensive coordinator. But as a head coach with the Raiders and in college, he didn't really do much. You know what I mean? So there's just some guys that are great coordinators and not meant to be head coaches. I think Rex Ryan's one of those guys.
Yeah, and I don't think his head coaching career is over. I do think there's going to be a team that gives him a chance. It's not going to be next year. It's not going to be in a few years, but I do think there will be a team to give Rex Ryan a chance because remember, Rex Ryan has been to the playoffs. He's been to a couple AFC championship games with Mark Sanchez at quarterback. So I do think Rex Ryan will get one shot, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't either because if you look at his track record, yeah. So I do think he will get fired by the Bills after week 4. I don't know who's actually a good fit for the Buffalo Bills head coaching position.
They'll probably just keep someone as an interim that's already on the staff. And with my eyes, I always look at coaching in all sports really is that if you don't have a better replacement, then don't fire your coach. A lot of times that's not necessarily the case because you have sort of the locker room not playing for the coach anymore. You have the coach totally lose the locker room. They don't want to play for the guy. So that happens a lot of times, and you can't fire all the players. So why it may not be the coach's fault or it may be, you have to sort of look at them at the head of that sort of monster, the head of the snake, and fire them first because you can't fire every player. You know what I mean? So that's kind of just the way sports works. Yeah.
What? We will have to take our first break, Ben, and we're actually going to talk some college football when we get back. Yeah, we're going to recap last night's Houston and Cincinnati game, and as well as look ahead to the weekend slate of games in college football when we come back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. We are going to be talking about last night's matchup between the number 6 ranked Houston Cougars and the once undefeated Cincinnati Bearcats. Because they lost last night to Houston, the score was 40-16. But don't let that final score fool you. Houston was actually losing in the fourth quarter. They were down early in that fourth quarter, 16-12. They had Greg Ward Jr. lead them on a couple of touchdown drives. And then they scored 14 points in a matter of 7 seconds between 2 pick sixes. So Houston escaped and run away with it late, but the game was a lot closer than you may think.
Yeah, and I was previewing, looking forward to this game on Thursday's show with Alex, and I told him that, this game, it's going to be a lot closer than people anticipate it to be. I think, the Cincinnati Bearcats were going to make it interesting because both of these teams were they were both 2-0 coming into this game. And the Bearcats, they were at home. So, I know that home crowd was going to get into it. And
you have national television.
Exactly, yeah.
You have a tough rivalry. Not necessarily a rivalry, but a tough
it's a conference game. It was a conference game for both teams. And, this game was closer than anticipated to be. Greg Ward Jr., he kind of struggled a little bit. He threw a couple picks in this game. And then, it was 16-12, like you said, Ben, early in the fourth quarter. But, Greg Ward, he showed resiliency in a way.
Good leadership in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, he did. I told Alex that Houston was going to pull away from this. They were going to pull away from this game late in the fourth quarter, and I was exactly right. I knew it was going to be close for the majority of the game, and then Houston was going to somehow find a way to pull away from the Bearcats, and I was right. I was right.
I think this is a huge result for Houston because the only ranked opponent they have currently on their schedule is Louisville, and that's a lot later in the year. Houston not in a Power 5 school. I feel like they need to win games like this really convincingly if they want to have any chance of getting into the college football playoff because they're not playing the strength of schedule at some of these other schools. You got to think the SEC winners in, the ACC winners in, perhaps the Big Ten winner between Ohio State and Michigan, maybe Michigan State if they keep playing well. You got to think one of those schools will be in the Big Ten winner. So that only leaves one spot for maybe the Big 12, the Pac-12, Houston. So I think they need to go undefeated and they need to win convincingly like this because we've seen in the college football playoff era, if you play a team you're supposed to beat really bad and you barely escape, you're falling in the rankings. Look at Clemson last week. Look at Tennessee the week before. Houston needs to win every game convincingly if they want to have any chance, and they have to really have Oklahoma try and win out.
Yeah, and for Houston, to make the playoffs, I did say also on Thursday's show that they also need to go. They need to win out convincingly, and I said yesterday that if Houston somehow lost this game, their playoff chances were done. They were done.
Absolutely. If they, in my opinion, if they have one loss at all, I think they're done.
Yeah.
No matter who it is. Whether it's Louisville or one of these other schools in their conference, I think even one loss, they're done. This is their only shot to go undefeated, to get into the college football playoff.
And remember, they're also trying to vie for a Big 12 spot. Also, they're trying to get into that conference. So this season is big for Houston in a variety of ways. And I think if they just pass the eye test for every other game and they somehow not convincingly win against Louisville, but they somehow compete well against Louisville and win that game, I think after that Louisville game, I think this team is going to be a shoo-in for the playoffs.
I think it'll
but
be
but it depends. But it depends on the other teams in front of them too. Don't get me wrong. It depends on them too. And the Oklahoma game, Oklahoma, how they do so far, how they do, for the rest of the season, is also huge for Houston as well. Which, and Oklahoma has a huge game coming up this weekend too. So we're gonna get into some this weekend slate of games, Ben.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have the top 3 teams in the AP poll, all on the road against ranked opponents. That is the first time ever in the history that's going to happen. So we have number 1 Alabama taking on number 19 Ole Miss. We have number 2 Florida State taking on number 10 Louisville. That is a game that you mentioned you think is going to be the best of the week to me. And then we have number 3 Ohio State taking on number 14 Oklahoma.
Yeah, and then that Oklahoma-Ohio State game, it's a huge game for Oklahoma. And it's also a huge game for Houston Cougars, which I just previously mentioned, because, if Oklahoma somehow wins in that game, that is a huge win for both Houston and Oklahoma. But anyways, my game of the week in college football has to be Florida State versus Louisville. It's the first time this season that 2 top 10 teams will face each other. And I think I might get this. I think I might get a little edge to Louisville here because for one reason only, they're at home. They are at home, and they have probably the hottest quarterback in college football right now.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, he's converted everything. He's capable of 13 touchdowns all season. He's over 1,000 yards rushing and passing. I think Florida State is still going to win this game. I do like their experience. I like their leadership. I like Dalvin Cook at running back. DeAndre Francois, we all saw what he's capable of, what he did against Ole Miss, against a ranked opponent. So the national stage does not get to him. Louisville at home at Papa John's Stadium is definitely a benefit for them. I expect a close game. I do like Florida State's leadership. Head coach Jimbo Fisher, he knows what it takes to get it done. He's won a national championship before. I think Florida State edges one out late.
Oh, okay. So I wouldn't be surprised with that. This game is going to be fun to watch. We're going to see Lamar Jackson versus Florida State's defense. And honestly, we're going to find out if Lamar Jackson's for real or not in this game. We're going to find out if he's for real.
Right. The first 2 games they've played against Charlotte and Syracuse, not necessarily the talent of Florida State. I think he's a good player. I don't expect him to put up, 6 touchdowns in this game. I'd say maybe 3 at the most. But, who knows? I think he's still a good player. He's still very capable.
Yeah, and he is probably the best quarterback so far.
Statistically wise, he's put up the best numbers.
But anyways, we got another games we got to preview here. Number 1 Alabama will go on the road to face Ole Miss. Huge SEC game on Saturday afternoon. Huge.
Yeah. Ole Miss has defeated Alabama each of the last 2 years, so they definitely have their number. They're not afraid to play them. They are the home team. I mean, I got to think that Alabama is going to be ready for this game. They played Western Kentucky last week, kind of a tune-up leading into this game. They are on the road, which is kind of tough, but Nick Saban seems to always have his teams ready. I got to like Alabama. How can you bet against Saban?
Yeah, you can't. You can't, and, you can't. This is the reigning national champion that you're talking about here. And I don't expect, Ole Miss to be a pushover in this game either. I do expect this game to be competitive. Ole Miss, they did, they remember that opening game for Ole Miss. They were leading Florida State for the majority of that game too. It was a double-digit lead until Florida State came back and won. So you gotta think that's still on the mind of Ole Miss because that was a game they should have won with that kind of lead against that quality of a team. I think that's still on their mind, and they got to show people that they're ranked for a reason, especially if they keep this game competitive. I think they'll be fun.
I think Alabama wins the game.
But no, I think Alabama does win the game. I do agree with you that. I just think Ole Miss will make this competitive. And another game is Ohio State on the road against Oklahoma.
Yeah, Ohio State number 3 going into Norman, Oklahoma, number 14. I think Ohio State wins this game. Ohio State not really much experience, only returning 6 starters. They do have quarterback JT Barrett, which is obviously a big addition. I gotta like Urban Meyer. I think him and Nick Saban are the best 2 coaches in college football. It seems like Oklahoma can't really seem to win a lot of big games. I do realize they're at home, but I like Ohio State in a close game.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this one. I got Oklahoma, that desperate team at home. I think they're going to come out on top in a very, very close game at the end.
Oklahoma is very desperate. If they lose this game, you might as well throw their chance at getting into the college football playoff out the window.
Oh,
they
have
for
sure.
2 losses before they even get into their conference schedule. I do give Oklahoma and Bob Stoops credit for playing tough opponents. Think about week 1, they played Houston. So I do give them a lot of credit. I think that's definitely a lot better than other schools do. But I got to like Urban Meyer and JT Barrett. I got to go with that experience and leadership.
Yeah, don't worry. I had JT Barrett as a Heisman candidate, so I do expect him to play well. I do expect the Ohio State offense to play well. But usually with games like this, college football is a crazy, crazy sport. You don't know what's going to happen. And just for the craziness in college football alone, I'm just going to go Oklahoma State just for the heck of it. I'm like, why not? Why not? They're a desperate team at home. I would not be surprised if they did win this game, so I'm just going to go with them. Why not?
Okay. One game I kind of have my eyes on is another ranked matchup. We have number 12 Michigan State going into Notre Dame, who's ranked 18. Obviously, Notre Dame coming off that week 1 overtime thriller against Texas. DeShone Kizer, since he's been named the starting quarterback, he's absolutely looked phenomenal. They are at home. I'm going to take the Fighting Irish over the Spartans.
Okay, I can see that. I think this game honestly can go either way. Both of these guys, they're both equally matched. They are both equally matched, and I think I might have to go with Notre Dame a little bit because remember they did lose that opening game to Texas, which was probably still the best game of the year, and the Sean Kaiser has been really good for the Irish. So I am going to go with the Irish to win this game as well. But I have an upset of the week.
Okay,
you want to hear it?
Let's do it.
All right. Appalachian State over the 25th ranked Miami Hurricanes. That was my upset of the week.
It's possible. I mean, look at Appalachian State. Think about week 1 against Tennessee. They take them to overtime. I think they're definitely going to be ready. Miami is going into Appalachian State and playing them in North Carolina. So they're actually coming to their house, which normally you don't see a big ACC school like that going into a smaller division school. But, I think Appalachian State is going to compete. Obviously, they're not afraid of big games. They're going to go into this game expecting to win. You know what I mean? They're not going to take Miami as like, oh, we're just here for a payday. Miami definitely with good leadership. Mark Richt, former head coach at Georgia. I think he's a great coach. I think he kind of got shafted a little bit at Georgia. It's a tough SEC. He got a lot of schools to compete against. I think he's going to have the Hurricanes ready. I expect Miami to win. I'm not going to say in a blowout. I'll say a one-possession game.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's going to be close. But, man, the fact that Appalachian State played so well against, Tennessee, the SEC East Division, favorite, to begin the year or before the year. The fact that they were leading that game 13-3 before, Tennessee won 20-13 at overtime. I don't know. I think I'm going to give the edge over the Hurricanes there, over the U. I like them at home. If this game was at Miami, I would not give them a chance. But the fact they're playing at home, I'm going to have to give them a chance. I like them. This is my upset of the week in college football. So you never know. College football is a crazy thing.
Anything is possible.
Exactly.
We've seen that through 2 weeks already.
Exactly.
So.
Central Michigan had that crazy play over Oklahoma State, who were ranked 22 last week, who are not ranked right now. But, yeah, crazy sport. Crazy game, yeah.
I wouldn't say this is going to be an upset because I do believe Texas is still going to win. But one game I'm going to have my eye on here is Texas against Cal. Think about last year, the shootout that was. You have Texas going to the West Coast here to face Cal out in the Bay Area. That's a 7:30 local time start. That's a 9:30 start in Texas. I realize these guys are kids. They're young people. They stay up late sometimes. But 9:30 to start playing a football game, you're going to be playing until midnight, a little bit past the hour. I think this is a game that Texas might come out a little slow because it's so late at night. Look at Cal. They're capable of scoring 50, and they're going to give up 49.
We said that already, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at what they did against San Jose State last week. They gave up 200.
San Diego State.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. Yeah, San Diego. I keep wanting to say San Jose. But they gave up almost 300 yards rushing to one guy. Texas very capable with that new offense, Shane Bichelle, Tyrone Swoops, the 18-wheeler package. They're doing a lot of good
dozer.
Things. They're doing a lot of good things. I think Texas is still going to win the game, but I say Cal can maybe keep it close for a while because of that start time. I think that's going to have a little bit of an effect on the Longhorns.
Yeah, I do think this game is going to be more competitive than people think it is, but the game I'm also looking forward to. I think this game a little overlooked a little bit is Stanford and USC. This game is going to play in Palo Alto. And, I have Stanford winning this game, but I did think people are overlooking this matchup a little bit. I think it's because USC is not ranked. And, this game is on prime time. And I do think this game's going to be close because, USC had that horrendous performance against Alabama to begin the year. And then they did win big over Utah State. So I do think USC is going to come back and be competitive against a conference opponent. But I do see Stanford coming out on top because, man, they got to stay. For Stanford to still be in the top 10 or top 5, they got to win every game. And it's hard for Stanford to make the playoffs for some reason. I don't know what they have to do to be a contender in the playoffs. I don't know what they have to do, but I do see Stanford winning this game.
Yeah, if Stanford go undefeated, run the table, they'll be fine. Obviously, you look at Washington, UCLA. USC is a big game for them. It's hard to bet against Christian McCaffrey, so I'll take them, and they're at home.
Okay, so that was our college football preview, folks. And when we come back from our second break, we're going to preview some Week 3 action in the NFL. You ready for this, Ben?
Always ready.
Oh, I said Week 3. Week 2. Oh, my God, I'm looking ahead. Week 2 NFL action, guys. Week 2. We'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
All right, welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, and we got Week 2 action coming up, Ben. There's some matchups that I'm looking forward to, but I want to hear what matchups you're looking forward to first.
I guess there's a lot. One matchup I have kind of penciled in as I think could be a good game and a really important game, particularly for one team, is Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Arizona Cardinals. Look at the Cardinals last week. They lose to the Patriots, a game a lot of people expected them to win. You and I both did as well on the show, so we take the L for that one. But the Cardinals, another home game. They're already 0-1. Tampa Bay, a team who went on the road last week to beat Atlanta, a division foe. Jameis Winston played great. He had 4 touchdowns. Look at Dirk Cutter now coming over in as the head coach. I think he's going to help Jameis Winston. I think Jameis is going to be a star in this league. And I think for Arizona, it's a huge game because if they go 0-2, losing 2 home games, you already have a quarter of your season at home out of the books, and you lose, you go 0-2. Only 12% of teams go to the playoffs after going 0-2. I think that would be a tough sort of thing to get out of. I think they'd still make the playoffs, but I think it's kind of a must-win for Arizona if they want to get a high seed in the NFC because they would already lose 2 home games. I don't see how they could sort of come out positive out of that.
Yeah, I just can't see the Arizona Cardinals winning 2 straight games at home. I can't see it. This was my team, to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl because they're probably the most balanced team in the league. And I can't see the Cardinals losing 2 straight games. We did have them, as a lock to be the New England Patriots, but of course that didn't happen. The Patriots just found a way to win with Jimmy Garoppolo, a.k.a. Jimmy G, I like to call him. But a game that I actually am looking forward to is the New Orleans Saints at the New York Giants. Remember, this was a game that looked like pretty much it was played on Madden last season. Like, no defense at all. The worst defensive game you can ever see, but I'm telling you right now, it was fun to watch with these quarterbacks. What they did last year, Drew Brees had 7 touchdowns. In the matchup last year, Eli Manning also did really well. So there's going to be a lot of passing, a lot of fun. And, the fact that, this game was pretty much equally matched on offense last year, but the fact that the Giants' defense is a little bit better than the Saints' defense, I'm going to have to give the edge to the Giants on this game, on this one. Yeah.
I like the Giants, too. They're at home back in New York after their Week 1 win in Dallas. The over-under is 53. I think that's definitely going over. We talked about the Saints and the Raiders last week. We saw a shootout. We saw both teams scoring at least 30. That's obviously what happened.
And I had the Raiders winning. You questioned me about it.
Yes, but
you did.
So
you took the L for that one.
Kudos to you. I do think the Giants will win. I think, obviously, you mentioned their defense is better than the Saints. Saints last year had a historically bad defense. Didn't look much better in Week 1. So
No.
I think Eli Manning is going to have really a lot of success passing the ball. Victor Cruz came back in Week 1 and played really well. So you add him with Sterling Shepard, the rookie out of Oklahoma, and Odell Beckham, one of the best in the league. I think their passing attack's going to look really, really good against New Orleans. I think they're going to win in a shootout.
Yeah, and I think my lock of the week is probably the Carolina Panthers over the San Francisco 49ers. And did you happen to watch that brutal, unwatchable Monday night game?
I watched a lot of it, yes. The Rams didn't even get into the red zone.
Exactly. That is embarrassing. Wow, that was flat. That game displayed the worst offense I've ever seen in my life.
You know what? I think Seattle's going to beat the Rams this week.
I do too.
But you know what? I think that's going to be a very close game. It seems like the Rams always plays the Seattle Seahawks really good. And you have them going back to L.A. in front of 90,000 people in the Memorial Stadium, an emotional return. I think the Rams are going to compete. You have Russell Wilson hobbled with an ankle injury. Some of his mobility is not going to be there, his escapability. The Rams, a good defense. Seattle's offensive line's not too good. I think the Rams are going to compete, but I'll still take the Seahawks in a close game.
Yeah, and I do think the L.A. Rams are going to come out better. If they happen to come out flat again this weekend against the Seattle Seahawks at the Coliseum, man, L.A. is going to run this team out of town before they even get halfway through their season. They're going to want a return policy from St. Louis.
They're going to want Jared Goff in there, I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you right now, if Jared Goff is not the starter week 3, I will be really surprised because this team has no offense. This team never had a quarterback. They need Jared Goff in here. I know they don't want to rush him in there, but eventually they need to put him in there. Like, they need him to get acclimated to the game speed. They need to find out a way to get him in the lineup soon.
I think Goff's just not ready to play.
Too.
He's just not ready.
I agree with you, but they need to put some excitement in this team. Remember, they're in LA. They're in a town that's run by Kobe Bryant, probably one of the biggest sports stars in that city, and he's retired. And he still is that big star. So this is a team that needs to create excitement for its city, and they're just not doing that after coming out and getting shut out by the 49ers, the team that everyone thought was the worst team coming into the season. That was embarrassing. But anyways, my lock of the week is Carolina Panthers over 49ers, and the 49ers defense did improve from what I've seen last year, and Carolina Panthers are going to come out hungry for a win because they lost a very tight game last week against the Denver Broncos to open the season, and they lost on a field goal attempt also. So I do think the Panthers are going to come out strong. I actually think this game's going to be more competitive than people think it is. I think people expect Cam Newton to run wild in the Niners defense, but I don't expect the Niners defense to back down either. But the fact that Blaine Gabbert is the Niners quarterback is the reason why this is a lock for the Panthers.
I kind of feel bad for the Niners because they have Carolina on the road, so they're going from West Coast to East Coast. They're on a short week playing Monday night.
And they played a late Monday night game,
right,
for that matter.
You have Carolina with a week and a half to prepare, with an angry quarterback who got hit in the head so many times. A week and a half to prepare, a game they probably should have won against Denver, had a chance late, as you mentioned. I kind of feel bad for the Niners. I think they kind of got shafted on the schedule here. I think Carolina is definitely a lock, as you mentioned, but I think that's a little too easy. So I'm going to go with a different lock.
Okay.
My lock of the week is the team that the Panthers played in Week 1, and that's the Denver Broncos at home against the Colts. They have
Yes,
They have a week and a half to prepare. The Colts' offensive line is one of the worst in the league. You have Denver, one of the best pass rushers. Look at Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Shane Ray. Do a lot of blitzing, a good secondary. The Colts have absolutely no running game. Frank Gore is really, really old. I think Andrew Luck's going to take a beating in this game. The spread is Denver by 6. I see them covering that. I see them winning by at least 10. I realize their offense with Trevor Siemian is a lot more simple. But C.J. Anderson played really well against Carolina. I think they run the ball a lot. And I think Denver's going to eat Andrew Luck alive because the offensive line is so bad. I think Denver wins. That's my lock of the week.
Yeah, and we're actually talking about Alex and I. We're talking about the Colts and Lions game on Monday's show. Man, the Colts, they need to help out. They need to bring in some guys to help Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, his arm is going to fall off in 2 weeks if he throws 40 to 60 attempts every game. They have no running game. They do have one of the worst O-lines, like you said. The defense is terrible. Yeah, they need somehow to give Andrew Luck some help. It's like Peyton Manning over again. And I do see the Broncos coming up on top in this one because, for one, they're at home. And then, two, they have the best defense in possibly the league. I just can't see the Broncos losing this game. And I know they have Andrew Luck, but the fact that the offense is a little they have the offensive line, it's a little worse than they had. That's the reason why I think the Denver Broncos will also win. And plus, the running game, they're probably going to try to keep Andrew Luck off the field for that matter. So I think the running game with C.J. Anderson helps Trevor Siemian, and of course the defense, they're going to come out and play well.
I agree. Okay, let's talk upsets here. I have one that I really, really like. It's Jacksonville against San Diego Chargers. Jacksonville is a 3-point dog on the road. I think the one thing that goes against their favor is, again, the east to west. They're coming from Florida all the way to the West Coast in California. I think that hurts them. But you look at San Diego, they're just on an emotional low right now. You lose your stud, Keenan Allen, for the season with an ACL injury. You blow a 24-3 lead against the Chiefs and lose in overtime. You don't have much at receiving. Running backs, Melvin Gordon, he looked good last week, but can he really keep it up? Jacksonville competed against Green Bay. They lose by 4. They had a chance to win it late. They were driving, but then they couldn't get it done. I think Jacksonville's going to come into San Diego and beat the Chargers.
No, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I think this game, either of these teams could win this game. The Chargers, first of all, they lost their best receiver for the year. So who's going to step up for the Chargers offense for Phil Rivers? Who's going to step up? That's my number one question for them. And the defense, it is still pretty bad. They allowed like 28 points or more than 20 points for that matter in the second half after having a 21-3 lead. So the fact that they're facing an even better offense than the Chiefs have kind of really worries me about the Chargers defense in this game. And I do expect the Jaguars to come out on top because I just can't bet against, that offense. They have so many weapons, to catch the ball. They have Blake Bortles. They have the running game does worry me a little bit. I think if Chris Ivory, he's probably, I don't know if he's going to play this weekend, but if he does come back, I think they're going to slowly ease him in, and they're going to find some way to give touches to Ivory and TJ Yeldon. But I do see the Jaguars coming up on top. And my upset of the week, though. You want to hear my upset of the week?
Yes.
All right. You're probably going to question me about this, but my upset of the week is the Vikings over the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football.
Okay, why?
Yeah. Why? That defense, I do think this defense for the Minnesota Vikings is going to keep him in this game. And, I know Aaron Rodgers is probably the best quarterback in the league, but I feel like the Vikings are going to somehow, they're going to rely on Adrian Peterson heavily. And I do think this defense is going to keep him in this game. And whoever starts at quarterback, Sean Hill or Sam Bradford, the fact that this game, they're going to keep this game close, I can see them winning this contest on Sunday night. That's the reason why the reason why I'm taking this as an upset is because of the Minnesota Vikings defense. It's the only reason why. And they're at home. This is the first game in the new stadium too. Don't forget about that.
Yes.
I
think it's going to be tough. It's hard to ever bet against Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Eddie Lacy, the Packers offense in general. Minnesota didn't even have an offensive touchdown last week against Tennessee. It looks like Sam Bradford's probably going to start, and obviously you'd think he would. They gave up a first-round pick from Philly to get him. So not going to have Sean Hill start all season with Sam Bradford on the bench. So I think Sam Bradford's going to start. Mike Zimmer's kind of keeping it under wraps as who's going to start. I think it'll be Bradford, though. It's hard to ever bet against Green Bay. They're such a good team. Their defense played pretty well last week, I thought, against Jacksonville. Tough climate, tough matchup to go there. They're in Florida in September. I think it'll be a close game. I think Green Bay will win, though. And that's being not a Packer fan, but a neutral fan.
Yeah, so. I just wanted to make things interesting, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
That's my upset of the week. I can be wrong or right. It doesn't matter. That's why it's an upset. But anyways, Is there any other games you're looking forward to? A game I don't want to get too into because we got to get out of here. I'm actually looking forward to the Houston Texans versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I do think this is going to be a really good game to watch. Brock Osweiler actually looks pretty good in this offense. He looks okay.
I was going to say that game. I think Kansas City will go on the road and beat Houston just like they did last year in the playoffs. Obviously, I don't think it'll be a blowout, but
no.
I like Kansas City in this game. They kind of had a stinker last week and came out on top. Spencer Ware played great. I think you'll see a little bit of Jamal Charles. Alex Smith really was a leader last week and leading them back in that second half. I think Kansas City will beat the Texans.
No, I do too, and I think this game's going to be close. They have Lamar Miller as the bell cow of the offense now. He's happy with that role, and they have Will Fuller who has a chemistry with Brock Osweiler. They had a chemistry all summer. We saw it last week how it was, and DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to get double teamed pretty much every game this year. So Will Fuller brings that extra, kind of like that complimentary receiver, and they put things over the top. For Brock Osweiler. So I do have the Chiefs win this game, but I do think it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I think so as well. When you look at the NFL, there was only one game decided by more than 10 points last week. That was Philadelphia and Cleveland. So every game in the NFL is close, man. Every team's capable of beating everyone, in my opinion, any given week.
Exactly. That's why it's called Any Given Sunday.
Any
given Sunday. But yeah, good show today, man. Good show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, every show's good.
Always.
Every show's good. All right, well, we'd like to thank you guys for tuning into the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. You can catch us on a variety of platforms, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at GSMC_baseball. At GSMC_football.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just do the baseball show with Ben. That's why I said that. All right, and then you can also follow us on Instagram at the same handle as at GSMC_football. And you can also like us on Facebook at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And you can also check out this show at GSMC podcast.com. You can also listen to Ben and I's baseball show. You can also listen to Ben's soccer show and the sports show as well with Alex. And Alex will be back on Monday. He will be back on Monday. And Ben will be back on this show next Friday.
Yes, and we will have a new edition. We'll have Anthony joining us, a new edition here at the GSMC Podcast Network. I think he'll do great. Looks like a nice addition to the company.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to actually, Anthony, you can't hear him, but he's actually in the studio when we're doing the show. I would have him say hi, but he's not hooked up to the headphones, and we got to get out of here.
Yeah, and breaking news, Chris Ivory is out this Sunday.
Is he out? Okay,
so
he's
TJ
out.
Yeldon will get the start.
Okay. He is out. Thank you for that breaking news.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then I don't want you guys to forget, I'm also starting the Fantasy Football Podcast next Tuesday. Yes, every Tuesday and Friday, I will do the Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm actually doing the Fantasy Football Show with Anthony, who's also doing the football show with Ben and I every Friday. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next Monday.
Yes.
On Monday, yes.
Recapping college football, NFL, and then other great football news.
Yes. We'll see you guys on Monday.